Noni Madueke, what can you do? Can you create something when your team cannot help you? That's exactly what he did. Takes the ball, said to the player from Bruges, go to the gym, gets inside and smashes it off the crossbar. I love that. Create something out of nothing. Well done, Madueke.
Win for Arsenal for your team in a game that you said that could potentially be a difficult away game.
It is tough to win against Brugge away from home. But you know what? There were some new players. When I say new players, like in the starting lineup, or Declan Rice didn't start, Saka didn't, whatever. A lot of players were on the bench, but then. You know, this is what I'm saying. What can you do? Can you create something out of nothing? Again, you know, Noni Madueke sending a player in the gym first over there, turns, go back inside. Hey, boom, move, go back inside, and then he had one thing in his mind is to strike that ball in. What a goal!
And then he got a complete contrast to the first goal. And that's what you want from your attacking players. Can they score all sorts of goals, but especially these goals? The long-range one won't happen too often, but he's got to make sure, as a wide player, he gets in at that back post, and he couldn't miss.
Couldn't miss?
Couldn't miss, and he didn't miss.
We've had some great goals tonight, though, haven't we?
Yeah.
Especially in the women's with Leon, but this one from Martinelli is outstanding. Look at wowzer! Bends it into the top bag. Keeper has no chance. 3-0, the Arsenal.
Wow.
It puts Arsenal top of the table as well, still right up there in first, Bayern in second, PSG third, Manchester City in fourth.
No worries.
Micah.
Calma.
The big difference with Arsenal this season is depth. They can afford to give Bukayo Saka the night off because they've got him behind him.
Yeah. He has done amazing. And I can't express, I'm a big Chelsea fan. When Arsenal bought him at the start of the season, I was flabbergasted. I thought, oh my God, if there was one player I would have sold at Chelsea, it would have been him. I never see him go past anybody, didn't really set the world alight at Stamford Bridge. He's gone there and he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's made me eat my words, but there's always horses for courses. You know, at Chelsea, you turn up at Chelsea, it's slow, it takes time to get, Arsenal, it's bang, 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 get it out to the winger before anybody can double up, and it's quick. And when he gets one-on-one, I expect him to go past the fullback every time. That's how good he is. But he's not Saka yet, in my opinion. But what a person to have as someone to keep on coming on. As good as anybody, and probably better than Saka at 1v1s. I think if you can get him 1v1, I think he's absolutely outstanding. He done brilliant that night. That was unreal. Then he kept on doing it. And it was going wrong then. But yeah, he's made me eat my words. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. But the way Arsenal play suits his game. They get the ball out to the wingers very, very quickly.
The point is, now, and maybe he in his own mind will think, well, one day I can really challenge Bukayo Saka. But it goes back to what I said before, that you can afford to not play Saka, where there were some games we'd have watched Champions League matches last season. We thought, what is he still doing out there, Saka, after 70 minutes? But also he can play on the left. He gives you options across that front line, flexibility. And as we've said, Mikel Arteta now isn't just calling on 13, 14 people to try and get through 4 competitions.
Yeah, very much so. And it's clever what Arsenal have done, and they've done it very quietly. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden they go buy him, and all of a sudden we all sit there and go, my God, look at that squad. And they're not like mega superstars. It's not like they've gone out and bought 10, 80 million pound players. They've just bought players here and here and here, and they've got an unbelievable squad. But Arteta can still get it wrong, and he got it wrong horribly on Saturday.
Arsenal could welcome back 4 players ahead of Wolves' clash. Mikel Arteta says William Saliba could return from injury for Arsenal in this weekend's game against Wolves. But Arteta says he will be assessed ahead of the clash with the league's bottom side with a view to possibly returning. We have to wait and see, Arteta said. Yesterday we didn't train. He hasn't trained with us yet, so we have an extra day. We train this afternoon. Let's see if he can be available or not. It was something quite small. It came from an ankle injury that he had, and then it started to modify the way he was running and all that, and he started to overload an area, which is something common. But at some point it was uncomfortable continuing to be able to train and play, and we had to stop it. It looks better, but we have to wait and see if it's enough for him to be able to train with the team. The Gunners' boss will also make late decisions on Declan Rice, Leandro Trossard, and Jurrien Timber. Rice missed the win over Club Bruges on Wednesday through illness. Trossard and Timber, meanwhile, were both sidelined through injury. On Timber, Arteta said, "It was a knock that he picked and he wasn't feeling comfortable. Again, I think it's a matter of days, but whether it's tomorrow or not, we'll see." On Rice, he added, "Obviously he was ill, that's an illness which normally in a few days it gets resolved, but we have to wait and see how far he can push." Arsenal, Mikel Arteta reveals Declan Rice, Jurrien Timber, and William Saliba injury updates for Wolves clash. Key trio all remain doubtful for the weekend. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta has given an update on the fitness of Declan Rice, Jurrien Timber, Leandro Trossard, and William Saliba ahead of hosting struggling Wolves in the Premier League. The Gunners have been hit hard by injuries over the past few weeks and were without 8 players for Wednesday's win at Club Bruges. Arsenal will still definitely be without Christian Mosquera, Gabriel, Kai Havertz, and Max Daumann for Saturday's clash against Wolves, and Arteta remains unsure if any will return to face the Premier League's whipping boys. Rice missed the victory over Bruges due to illness, while Trossard was absent because of a calf issue. Asked about Rice, Arteta said, "Let's see how it is today. Obviously, he was ill, that's an illness. Normally, in a few days, it gets resolved, but we have to wait and see how far he can push." Trossard is again another one that's a matter of days. Sounds boring, but it's the reality, so we don't know, and if he's available for how long. Timber was also left out of the squad, despite training on Wednesday, with Arteta explaining he suffered a kick in last weekend's win at Aston Villa. The absence of Timber left Arsenal so short on centre-backs that midfielder Christian Norgard had to play in the heart of defence against Bruges. "Depends how he feels today," Arteta said of the Dutchman. "It was a knock that he picked and he wasn't feeling comfortable. Again, I think it's a matter of days. Whether it's tomorrow or not, we'll see." Saliba has missed the last 4 games for Arsenal after picking up a knock in training before a trip to Chelsea at the end of last month. "We have to wait and see," Arteta said. "Yesterday we didn't train, he hasn't trained with us yet, so we have an extra day. We train this afternoon. Let's see if he can be available or not." Asked if Saliba is still a matter of days away from a return, Arteta replied, "That remains the same. If you asked me about the Everton game, I think he will be fit. For tomorrow, I don't know." "It was something quite small," the Gunners' boss continued. "It came from an ankle injury that he had, and then it started to modify the way he was running and all that, and he started to overload an area, which is something common. But at some point it was uncomfortable continuing to be able to train and play, and we had to stop it. It looks better, but we have to wait and see if it's enough for him to be able to train with the team." Arsenal flop who looks like he belongs in the Unai Emery era must be dropped. Since taking the manager's job almost 6 years ago, Mikel Arteta has got a lot right at Arsenal. The Spaniard has taken a team that felt destined to fall further down the Premier League table and turned them into serious challengers. However, as with all managers, he has also made his share of mistakes in the market, and one of his more recent ones feels like the sort of signing Unai Emery would have made. Emery versus Arteta in the transfer market. During his short 18-month reign at Arsenal, Unai Emery signed just 12 players, with 2 of those being on loan and 1 being a free. Unfortunately, while the likes of William Saliba and Gabriel Martinelli were unquestionably hits, every other signing is either up for debate or an outright flop. Worse yet, the Spaniard broke the club's transfer record in his second summer, bringing in Nicolas Pepe from LOSC Lille for a whopping £72 million. The Ivorian would eventually leave the North Londoners by mutual consent, having racked up a middling tally of 27 goals and 21 assists in 112 games. Other flops signed during that period include Lucas Torreira, Denis Suarez, Stefan Liechtenstein, and Socrates Papastathopoulos. Overall, while he did bring in 2 huge hits and a couple of players on the cusp of being hits, it would be fair to say that Emery didn't have a great track record when it came to signing players at Arsenal. But what about Arteta? Well, the former captain has been at the Emirates for far longer, so there are far more players to judge him on, and overall, you'd have to say he's been more successful than his predecessor. Yes, there have of course been plenty of flops, such as Fabio Vieira, Albert Sambi Lokonga, Pablo Mari, Raheem Sterling, and Willian, but there have been significantly more hits. For example, Declan Rice, Jurriën Timber, Ricardo Calafiori, David Raya, Ben White, Gabriel Magalhaes, and Leandro Trossard are just some of the players who arguably get into almost every other team in the league. Would Emery have eventually got better at identifying targets if he had been given more time and given an excess of £900 million? Possibly, but we'll never know. With that said, one of the manager's recent signings might be heading for the flop pile and feels like someone Arsenal would have made under the previous regime. The Arsenal signing who looks like he belongs in the Unai Emery era. So far, most of Arsenal's summer signings have looked good to great this season. Martin Zubamini has been pulling the strings from deep, Eberezi Eze got his North London derby hat-trick, and Noni Madueke has been the most direct attacker in the team. However, there is one player who arrived to plenty of fanfare, but so far has underwhelmed: Victor Gyökeres. Many fans and pundits alike saw him as the goal-scoring number 9 that the Gunners had been crying out for, but so far he has looked unconvincing to say the least. For example, in 18 appearances, the former Sporting CP powerhouse forward, as dubbed by analyst Ben Mattinson, has scored just 6 goals, and while that is not terrible, it's not enough from a £63 million striker. Moreover, unlike Gabriel Jesus, or even Kai Havertz for that matter, the former Coventry City star doesn't offer a whole lot off the ball, nor is he adept at helping craft chances. In fact, this was something SKY Sports' Gary Neville picked up on earlier in the season, when he called him a misfit, because unlike a lot of his teammates, he's not technically amazing. This dual problem of not getting into goal-scoring areas enough and also offering little in build-up was on display against Bruges, when in 62 minutes of action, he failed to get in on the action, took just 12 touches and played 4 passes. With all that said, there is clearly a player in there. We saw it for that brilliant goal against Leeds United earlier in the season. But if he doesn't improve quickly, it feels like a matter of when and not if he falls to third in the pecking order. Therefore, while it might sound harsh, Victor Gyökeres is looking more like a signing Arsenal would have made under Unai Emery than Arteta.